The Dershow.
When the verdict came in, people cheered for either side. It was a little bit like the O.J. Simpson case. I remember that very vividly, where you had African Americans, not all, but many, cheering the verdict of acquittal, and many white people, not all, but many, bemoaning it. Here, you have a similar reaction, not necessarily along racial or ethnic lines, but along partisan political lines. You have Trump supporters who are outraged by the verdict, and you have Biden supporters who support it. And then you have me, a Biden supporter who was outraged by this verdict, was outraged by the charges. Even if there had been an acquittal, I'd been outraged. The very fact that somebody is brought to trial on offenses of this kind is diminishes our legal system considerably. And so a very sad day for America, a very sad day for our system of justice. We're not Stalin's Soviet Union. We're not Hitler's Nazi Germany. We're not Pinochet. We're not, but we're not China, and we're not Iraq, but we're close to some of the countries in South America, where one dictator once said, "For my friends, everything. For my enemies, the law." And that's what we're going to see. We're going to see now the beginning. We've already seen it a little, but this is the low point, the initial low point. It will get lower, but this is the low point where you have a man running for president of the United States and being charged with non-crimes and being convicted by 12 jurors who almost certainly don't want to see Trump be president. And of course, the judge said, "Oh, don't let personal views impact your decision." He didn't say don't let political views. He said don't let personal views. He didn't say anything about if you don't want him to be president. Even so, that wouldn't have a big impact on the jury. Juries decide what they're going to decide, and they decided this pretty quickly. There were some questions, to be sure. People wanted to go over the testimony, but the testimony that convicted him was testimony by Michael Cohen. And boy, would any of the jurors have bought a used car from Michael Cohen? I don't think so. But send a man to conviction and possible jail. I don't think he's going to jail, but a possible imprisonment based on the testimony of Michael Cohen. They were willing to do that because they wanted it to come out a certain way. The evidence in this case was such that if you want it to come out for an acquittal, you can find so many flaws and holes in the case that you can find reasonable doubt and acquittal. If you want it to come out for a conviction, well, then you have to believe Michael Cohen. There's no way around believing Michael Cohen and getting a conviction. Only Michael Cohen testified as to what Donald Trump's mental state was and whether he knew that the bookkeeping entry would be legal or retainer expenses rather than reimbursement for a non-disclosure agreement. That's the only testimony. There's no corroboration of that. And the prosecutor misled the jury. There'll be a strong appeal. I'm sure that Trump will find himself a pretty good appellate lawyer. If he calls me, I'm not going to take the case, but I could recommend some very, very good appellate lawyers and who could do as good a job as possible on this case, a far better job than was done by the trial lawyers in this case. But that doesn't guarantee a reversal. Do you know what the percentage of convictions, criminal convictions that are appealed or reversed? Far fewer than 10%. In some jurisdictions, far fewer than 5%. In some jurisdictions, in the area of 1 or 2%. Obviously, when you're the presidential candidate, the odds change. They may get higher and they may get lower. But there is absolutely no guarantee there'll be a reversal of this conviction, although it should be reversed.